And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Daytona International Speedway, where tonight we have 54 cars on the facility here at the World Center of Racing. Yes, you heard that correctly. You heard that correctly. And there's a massive echo because I have the YouTube stream up in the background. But you know what? It's fine. It's a-okay because that stuff happens anyway. But we're here at the Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing, where, yes, you heard that correctly, 54 cars are at the facility ready to do battle. Of course, 36 drivers are locked into the race, which means there are 6 spots up for grabs. So, who are the 4 extra drivers that will be contending for those spots for the Daytona 500? Attempting the one-offs, really, to be more specific, to try to get into the Great American Race. We're about to reveal that to you here in just a little bit. So as you can see here, the track is pretty much cleared up and the drivers will be getting ready to go out here in just a little bit. But of course, just want to let everybody know, obviously the qualifying races are the qualifying events. When it comes to knockout qualifying, those will be held on YouTube right here on this YouTube channel. Should be Fridays, beginning next week when we go to Rockingham. And then the race should be on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on Twitch. Unless if it's a night race, then it will be Friday nights at 8:30 p.m. EST. Of course, qualifying will be held on that Friday. But with that said, ladies and gents, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at your qualifying format coming in here to tonight. Do want to add, again, there are 54 cars that are split up into 2 different groups for round number 1. So the top 10 from each group will move on to round number 2. Top 10 from round 2 move on to the final round, and the top 2, the fastest 2 cars, will sit on the front row for the Daytona 500. Of course, as you can see there on the side notes, all rounds are 10 minutes each, and this is kind of an iffy one. The top 2 fastest part-time drivers will lock themselves into the Daytona 500, but here's where it gets a little confusing. The note may say that the fastest laps may be determined on round number 2, but if there is a part-time car here, which you see, then that makes it to round 3, then there's a pretty good chance that they will lock themselves in to the Daytona 500 via those qualifying speeds. But as you can see there, highlighted in red, those drivers are attempting the Great American Race, and cars are getting ready to go out on the racetrack. 10 minutes are on the clock. First car out on the racetrack, that is the number 17. This is C.G. Holt, driving for Walker Family Motorsports. This is round 1 of Group 1. Group 1 for round 1, I mean, to be more specific. Stephen Colon was one of the next cars to come out onto the racetrack. There's Terry Walker in the number 48, Joshua Cornish in the number 89 machine. Of course, as you saw on that list, there were 18 cars that were slotted in to take part in, to try to get into the Daytona 500, of course, with those 6 spots up for grabs. 14 of those drivers, which you saw on that list, those are the same cars that will be trying to get into every single race throughout the 2025 season. But you also notice that 4 of them are highlighted in red. I do believe I have the wrong group here, but you know what? It's okay. We're going to roll with it. This is supposed to be group 2, but we're going to call this group number 1 anyway. But of course, C.G. Holt was the first one out on the racetrack, and you're going to notice that there are some drivers that are pretty spread out, so it'll only be a matter of time before we get some packs going. But you may have also noticed, going back to the list, you may have noticed a few drivers highlighted in red. Those 4 drivers are the one-off cars, the drivers that will be attempting only the Daytona 500. Here's one of them. This is a driver that has not been a part of WRLA since, get this, July of 2017. Of course, the last race that the WRLA ran back in 2017 was at the Rockingham Speedway. This driver, of course, is one of the very first drivers, you know, of course, a part of one of the very first rosters for WRLA Pepsi Cup competition. This is Gabriel Wanderley driving the number 58 Nesquik Chevy Camaro. Very familiar colors if you were around watching WRLA action back in 2017. One of the drivers that will be contending to get into the Daytona 500 or try to time his way in via the qualifying speeds. Again, it is the top 2 fastest part-time cars that lock themselves into the Daytona 500, so you can never really rule out any drivers that could potentially make it past round 2 to get into the final round to settle the front row for the Great American Race. As we're 4 minutes into the session, of course, top 10 currently looks like this. That would transfer on over into round number 2. Of course, first place, Terry Walkers. They go 3 wide here with our Wendy's Clash winner, Janiah Hill, down there on the bottom. Cologne in the middle, Ajax Fitzgerald up top. But of course, Terry Walker, the leader. Then running in second is the number 89 of Joshua Cornish. He would move on over into round 2. Actually, wait, Janiah Hill went to the top of the 45-0-91. How about that there for Janiah Hill, coming from this group here with Cologne, Kyle Craven, and Ajax Fitzgerald. This 4-car draft has definitely gotten themselves up to the top, but Joshua Cornish in the 89 answers back with a 45-0-29 as he takes the top, kicking Hill back to second, Miller third, Craven fourth, Terry Walker fifth, then Stephen Cologne sixth, the number 13 of Addison Jarrell, another driver trying to attempt the Daytona 500 only. She's in 7th with, well, now that's changed. So Jarrell gets kicked back to 8th. Jerry Rose 9th. But now he gets kicked back to 10th. These times are just changing literally by every few seconds. But that's how fast things can change here at a place like Daytona, especially with knockout qualifying, such as this type of format, just like this, where the draft is so key and it's so crucial. Positions are just constantly changing every single round or every single lap. What feels like, or every few seconds, I should say. And of course, Tanner Parton goes to the top of the 44-751. Claire Phillips in the 5, currently sitting in second with Ajax Fitzgerald third, Cologne fourth, Miller fifth. And actually, we probably should start that over. Skylar Taylor goes to the top with a 44-577. That is currently, of course, the fastest time of the day. I mean, obviously, this is round 1 of Group 1, the first group of round 1. Miller goes to second, Parton third, Phillips fourth, Fitzgerald fifth, Cologne sixth, Gabriel Wanderley running in the 7th position currently, with Noah Clifton 8th, Janiah Hill 9th, and holding on to the final transfer spot to get into round 2, that would be Kyle Craven. Of course, as far as the part-time cars go, as far as Gabriel Wanderley goes, he just jumped up to 3rd. Ajax Fitzgerald and Janiah Hill would all move on to round number 2 with less than 4 minutes to go here in this session. But this is where the fast laps are right now. Where Skylar Taylor and Gabriel Wanderley, along with Andrew Miller, this is where the fast laps are. You know, amongst the top 3 being in this group. You also have Zachary Fitzwater and Bruno DiGiacomo in the mix as well. They are somewhere in the top. Well, they're not really in the top 10, but they're actually very, I wouldn't say deep, but of course you see Bruno DiGiacomo currently, well, he's not 12th anymore. He just got kicked back to 13th, now 14th, and now 15th as the times are starting to slip up just a little bit. And of course, Val Mosco sneaks his way into the top 10 with a 44.834. There's Reagan Whitlock in the number 9, Andrew Miller in the 67, who raced in the Clash back on the 1st of February, just almost 2 weeks ago. But less than 3 minutes remaining, coming up to 2 minutes to go here for round 1, for Group 1, Round 1 qualifying from here at the Daytona International Speedway. Noah Clifton currently holding on to the final transfer spot to get into round number 2, with Skylar Taylor still holding the top with that 44.577. Andrew Miller still 10 100ths of a second back from the current fastest time right now. And Gabriel Wanderlei third. So how about that for Gabriel Wanderlei? So his chances of getting into the Daytona 500 via qualifying time is actually, I'd say, very well paying off. There was a car, actually a little bit of a, that's interesting. Alexander Rowe went through the grass. I'm not exactly sure what may have happened there. He might have gotten turned through the infield grass, but I don't see any damage on that number 34 machine, as he's just getting back up to speed. But how about that though? A little, maybe just a buckle on the rear end of the 34 machine, but troubles for sure for Alexander Rowe. But he is unfortunately not had himself a good session as of right now. He is 21st fastest with a 44.993. Pretty good chance that his time could improve if he puts down a quicker lap. He just got picked up by Whitlock and Ramsey and Bosco. So we'll see how this goes with less than 1 minute remaining here in group number 1. And then we'll be halfway through round 1, and then we'll get group 2 out on the racetrack here in just a few short minutes after this session. See Terry Walker coming back out on the racetrack. Closing in on 30 seconds remaining. We're going to keep an eye here on Alexander Rowe, see if basically the push that he's getting from these 3 cars is going to help improve his time this year as they come off of turn number 4, head back to the start-finish line, this time by with 7 seconds to go. There will be some added time, so that way these drivers can put down one more good lap. But unfortunately for Alexander Rowe, that did not help whatsoever. That did not help whatsoever, but with less than 30 seconds to go this time by, your top 10 that would more than likely move on into round number 2. Skylar Taylor, Andrew Miller, Gabriel Wanderlei, the one-off Daytona 500 driver, will definitely move on into round number 2 and better his chances of getting into the Daytona 500 via qualifying time. Then Tanner Parton, Jerry Rose, Claire Phillips, the 92 of Ajax Fitzgerald, then Zachary Fitzwater in the 98 machine, Aaron Abel. Hey, wait a minute. Things have changed here as times are finalized here for group number 1. Skylar Taylor, Andrew Miller, Gabriel Wanderlei, Tanner Parton, Ajax Fitzgerald, Jerry Rose, along with a 5 of Claire Phillips, Zachary Fitzwater, Noah Clifton, and Aaron Abel will all move on into round number 2. This concludes the session for group number 1. And as for drivers below the top 10, as we're going to take a look right here, see there Jordan Sumner, Janiah Hill, also the 89 of Joshua Cornish, Addison Jarrell, our 2021 Arcom Pepsi Amateur Series champ, along with Josiah Munsell. They will have to focus on tomorrow night's duels here at the Daytona International Speedway. But for drivers such as Gabriel Wanderlei and Ajax Fitzgerald, their chances of getting into the Daytona 500 have just been, well, they've been bettered. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and get group number 2 out on the racetrack here it's only going to take a few seconds. Thank goodness, though, that this actually is going to take just a short period of time. And now we're going to get group number 2 here out on the racetrack. So, of course, we already know the first 10 cars that will be moving on over into round number 2. Now it's time to figure out the next 10 as they are filing out onto pit road here at the Daytona International Speedway. Pretty unfortunate, though, that our Clash winner, Janiyah Hill, was not able to make the top 10. She was there for just a little bit, but unfortunately, as times were getting better as the session went on, I'm not sure what Ryan Gundillo's doing there. He just went all the way out to the infield grass. Ryan, these are stock cars, not lawnmowers, Ryan. But Ryan Gundillo, I'm not sure what that kind of pit exit was, but he is the first car out on the racetrack. There's Bobby McGuire in the number 3 machine. There's Emily Anderson in the 4. They are all out on the racetrack. And here, we just saw him a little bit ago. I think he might have began his way out on the racetrack. There he is. There's the number 62 machine. This is William Brock, another driver that will be attempting only the Daytona 500. Driving the number 62 SunTrust Chevy Camaro for Full Frontal Motorsports. This is another driver that has been a part of WRLA since 2017. He was also part of it in 2020. This is where the number 62 came along. He raced in WRLA in 2023. But now has kind of scaled back from WRLA competition and is only going to be attempting the Daytona 500 this year. Right now, the plans for Full Frontal Motorsports to make a full-time return to the league is definitely a little bit unknown. It's a little bit up in the air right now, but never say never. We could see William Brock and Full Frontal Motorsports back to full-time competition, possibly in 2026, but that's a long time from now. So there's only so much time to really figure that out. But as of right now, William Brock will be attempting this year's Daytona 500, and that's the only race that he will be attempting. Here's the 4th Daytona 500 only car. This is John Andrews, the 2024 NRLA McDonald's Cup Series champion, coming off of what was definitely probably the most dominant season that Andrews has ever had, a most dominant season that any driver in the McDonald's Cup Series has ever had. Driving the number 71. Remember, this is only a Daytona 500 only ride, so there is still a pretty good chance that Andrews could time his way into the Great American Race. But he's got to go through probably, 2 other cars that have timed their way into round number 2. So this is definitely going to be a pretty tall task here for the 2024 McDonald's Cup Series champion, getting behind the wheel of a WRLA Pepsi Cup car in the Sonic X machine as he gets ready to go here at Daytona. Bobby McGuire already starting off second on the charts, now gets kicked back to 3rd as Nathan Stapleton goes to the top of the 45.626, currently just running by himself. But I mean, at least we know how quick of a lap that he can get just riding on his own, just barely catching the whiff of the draft of the 4 of Emily Anderson. Now going to try to get around the 6 of Nia Steidel. These 2 EGI cars have definitely been drafting pretty well, at least for the most part, but looks like they're going to trade positions here and possibly pick up Nathan Stapleton as they come off of turn number 4. Caleb Rose goes to the top with a 45.231. McGuire up to second with a 45.234. That's 3/1000ths of a second slower than Rose, but Stapleton just caught the draft of Steidel's machine, jumps up, had the top spot for a little bit, but now got bested by Michael DeFeo, who is drafting in this group with Wyatt Walker in the 19. There's Chase McClure in the number 52, and the 21 of Roberto Crown Jr. So these 4 cars have definitely gotten a pretty good draft on one another. So Pretty good chance that Michael DeFeo could also be bettering his chances of getting into the Daytona 500 based on qualifying speed. Same can be said for Bobby Maguire and even Chase McClure. So far, those are the only 3 part-time cars that are trying to get into the Great American Race that are in the top 10 right now and have a very good chance of progressing into round number 2. Travis Crampton and Nikki Fox have entered the chat via this group over here. Crampton lays down a 44.833, 2 1/1000ths of a second back. That is Nikki Fox. Ray Atikian in the 45 sits 3rd currently. Zachary Taylor in the 4th spot. DeFeo gets kicked back to 5th. Then 6th is the number 19 of Wyatt Walker. Then the 23 of Valkyrie Atikian. So both Trinity River Racing cars are doing very, very well here in this group and have a good chance of contending for the top 10 spots that will go for the pole here later on tonight. So Bonsignor moves up to 5th and Taylor gets kicked back to 6th as Walker goes to the top with a 44.828 for his race machine. Not too bad there for Wyatt Walker here in the number 19, drafting off of the back of Roberto Crown Jr. for just a brief moment, and will definitely pick up the 71 of John Andrews here in just a little bit. But how about that, though, for Wyatt Walker in this number 19 machine, top of the charts currently. And not anymore. Chase McClure goes to the top of the 44.772. Crampton moves to 3rd. Rogel Dorn is in the mix there in that 4th position with a 44.833. Then Fox, Ray Atikian, Alex Bonsignor. Well, this is just constantly changing here. Bobby Maguire just got back into the top 10 with a 44.841. He's 4 1/1000ths of a second of being put on the bubble by Ray Atikian, and who knows, maybe somebody else just outside of the top 10 that could put down a better lap. Right now, Russell Blaze in the 69 machine, he's 4 1/1000ths of a second behind Ray Atikian, so he is on the outside looking in just by those 4 1/1000ths of a second. Definitely something that you want to keep an eye on here as we're going to look at Russell Blaze here as he crosses the start-finish line this time by, see if his lap improves. So far, no changes just outside of the top 10. Eric Monaco, I actually should mention, has just jumped up into the top 10 with a 44.8. How about that for Eric Monaco? Coming out of nowhere. So less than 2 minutes remaining here in Group 2 of Round 1. Top 10 goes as follows as of right now. Anything could change here, as we've seen. Right now, Chase McClure is running up top, is at the top of the charts with Eric Monaco, as who we're looking at right here. I'm completely stuttering on my words, so I do apologize for that. But Monaco currently running in 2nd, Caleb Rose 3rd, Valkyrie Atikian in 4th. Wyatt Walker would complete the top 5 with Travis Crampton 6th. Then 7th, Rogel Dorn, Nikki Fox 8th, Bobby Maguire 9th, and Ray Atikian holding on to the final transfer spot to move on into round number 2. He completes the top 10. Wyatt Walker jumps to the top with a 44.734. 1 minute remaining. Maguire has just been kicked to the bubble spot. So things are definitely, hopefully, they don't look too grim here for Bobby Maguire. He's right now just 4 1/1000ths of a second of being knocked out of the top 10 and would have to rely on the duels, which you definitely got to be clinching right now, because you better hope and pray that you don't have to go to the duels tomorrow night to try to race your way into the Daytona 500. And he just got knocked out of the top 10. He just got knocked out. I believe that might have been Michael DeFeo or even John Andrews. Wait a minute. John Andrews just knocked out Maguire from the top 10. But there's still hope. 45 seconds added on the clock, so there's still just a little bit of hope left. But might be out of time. Might be out of time here for the 3 machine of Bobby Maguire. He probably will definitely have to focus on the duels tomorrow night. So your top 10 that would move on into round 2, which will take place here in just a little bit. Wyatt Walker at the top of the charts, followed by Chase McClure, Michael DeFeo, Eric Monaco, Alex Bonsignor, Caleb Rose, Valky Rayatikian, John Andrews, Travis Crampton, and Rogel Dorn. Those 10 drivers will be joining the other 10 to make up the 20 that will go for the top 10 spots to battle it out for the pole in the Daytona 500. We're just going to wait for the drivers to teleport to the garage areas before we take a look at to see which drivers are definitely going to have a better chance of making it into the show as far as the part-timers are concerned. Of course, McClure, DeFeo move on, along with John Andrews and Travis Crampton. So make that, I want to say, 6 part-time drivers that will have a better shot at locking themselves into the Daytona 500 based on their qualifying speeds. However, for drivers like Nicky Fox, Bobby Maguire, Ray Atikian, William Brock, Martin Nixon, Kyler Sustry, and Ryan Gondillo, all of those drivers will have to focus on the duels tomorrow night here at the Daytona International Speedway, which, speaking of the duels, you will see those live tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on Twitch. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and we're going to take a quick little break here, and we'll be right back with you to get things ready to go for round number 2.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, here to get ready for round number 2 of Daytona 500 pole qualifying. So this round will consist of drivers, of the 20 drivers that will be going into the top 10, that will be contending for 10 spots in the final round to battle it out for the pole for this Saturday's Daytona 500. Here's Skylar Taylor in the number 41. He made it over into the second round via being the fastest in his group. But of course, a lot of other drivers managed to make it into round number 2, being the top 10 fastest. The two drivers that, two of the 4 cars that are Daytona 500 only rides, surprisingly have made it to this point. Gabriel Wanderlei, John Andrews, both drivers have managed to really show out here in this Daytona 500 pole qualifying session, especially for John Andrews being the defending McDonald's Cup Series champion last year. And as far as Gabriel Wanderlei goes, for the first time since 2017, being in a WRLA Pepsi Cup car, especially this type of Pepsi Cup car that is pretty much was in the works for the last, I want to say, since August. So the last 6 months preparing up to this point. So how about that, though, for both John Andrews and Gabriel Wanderlei? So round 2, this group, of course, it's 10 minutes for round number 2. And again, if you're just now tuning in, this group consists of drivers that were a part of Groups A and B for round number 1. And the top 10 fastest cars will decide who will be on the front row for the Daytona 500 in the final round. So, of course, we're going to see drivers definitely pick up the times here as this session goes on. Caleb Rose, as of right now, starts up at the top of the 46.838. And these times will progressively get faster as the session goes on. Valkyrie Atikian, however, 47.001, almost a 40-second flat lap, just 1/1000th short of that. But I will expect a lot of these drivers to, of course, form up packs that, of course, that are obviously going to enable quicker times. And we're slowly starting to see that, of course, Andrew Miller to the top of the 46.180. But that will only get better as this round progresses on. John Andrews currently 5th with a 46.620. Caleb Rose with a 46.459. There's where the times are starting to pick up. Aaron Abel goes to the top off with the draft off of Valkyrie Atikian, 45.961 for the Racing Motorsports Machine in their first outing here at the Pepsi Cup Series. Another team that is also having themselves a really great first outing. How about this? The Great Clips cars are drafting off of one another. That's Ajax Fitzgerald in the 92 and Eric Monaco in the 31, who is at the top of the charts with a 45.788. Andrews currently holds on to second. That all changes. Noah Clifton goes to the top with a 45.528. I should correct myself there. But there's Clifton drafting with his teammate Zachary Fitzwater in the 98 machine, and then Zachary Fitzwater's former teammate in Travis Crampton. Remember, once upon a time, Travis Crampton drove for NS Racing, but it was not on a full-time basis, unfortunately. Wyatt Walker goes to the top of the 45.399. Let's keep an eye on this pack right here, see what the time is going to look like across the stripe. Skylar Taylor held on to the top with a 45.380, but Travis Crampton just bested that by 0.3. 45.075 for Travis Crampton in the 61. Remember, this is, I know in the side notes that we were going over at the beginning of the broadcast, that the fastest 2 part-time drivers would lock themselves into the Daytona 500 by round 2. Well, that's a very, very loose note because there are drivers that could potentially make it to the final round. So expect the fastest 2 part-time cars, which could potentially be Travis Crampton and also the 52 of Chase McClure, to lock themselves into the 500 if they move on to this final round. But you also can't count out Michael DeFeo. Yeah, those are basically the 3 part-time cars that are inside of the top 10 as of right now. We're halfway through round 2. Skylar Taylor goes up to the top with a 45.001, almost a 45-second flat lap. But just the same case as Valkyrie Atikian at the beginning of the session. Just 1/1000th short. A 44.912. He just bested that by a full 10th. Crampton, unfortunately, was not able to best it. But he's still running in second as of right now. There's the number 58 of Gabriel Wanderlei. Had a great round number 1, but not so great round number 2. Currently finds himself 12th with a 45.437. So if Wanderlei is not able to make the final round and have a good chance of trying to go for the pole, basically just try to get up to the final round so that way he can be one of the fastest 2 cars to lock himself into the show via qualifying time. He will have to rely on the duels tomorrow night here at the Daytona International Speedway. He's got some good drafting help from the 23 of Valkyrie Atikian. I almost said Aaron Abel as well, but Abel just peeled off. He's going to pit road. Jerry Rose gets kicked out of the top 10 from the looks of things, but right now, here's how your top 10 goes. Of course, Skylar Taylor at the top of the charts yet again with a 44.912 as of right now. Wyatt Walker in second, Travis Crampton third. Then in fourth will be the number 98 machine of Zachary Fitzwater. Michael DeFeo completes the top 5 with Claire Phillips in sixth. Well, actually, that just changed. Chase McClure goes up to second. 45.018 for him. Then Walker third, Crampton fourth. Fitzy completes the top 5 with Michael DeFeo sixth, Claire Phillips seventh. Jerry Rose gets back up inside of the top 10. He's 8th right now. Noah Clifton 9th, and the 96 machine of Andrew Miller completes the top 10 and is currently holding on to the final transfer spot just by 1/10. Now over Ajax Fitzgerald, and he just got kicked out of the top 10. He just got kicked out of the top 10. Alex Bonsignor gets in as of right now with a 45.094, drafting off of the Great Clips cars of Fitzgerald and Eric Monaco. How about that for Alex Bonsignor? Caleb Rose actually broke into the top 10 as well. He's second with a 45.010. So Rose breaks in to the top 10 just from complete out of nowhere, drafting off of the Ennis Racing cars as well as the 71 of John Andrews. Andrews right now sits 19th with a 45.578. Right now, things are not looking too great for the Daytona 500 one-off cars. So if this progresses, they will definitely have to focus on the duels tomorrow night and get ready for those tomorrow night to try to race their way in to the Daytona 500. With now coming up on 30 seconds to go here in round number 2. This is actually, this session definitely by far has been pretty entertaining. These qualifying sessions, for sure, have been 100% a little as entertaining as they come. 10 seconds as they cross the start-finish line this time by. McClure goes back to second, 44.957. 45 seconds added on the clock, so that way these drivers can put down one more good lap. But for some of them, they might be good to go. There's a pretty decent chance that they could be good to go. And with 30 seconds remaining, I can confidently say that the drivers that will fight it out for the pole in the final round will be Skylar Taylor, Chase McClure, Claire Phillips, Caleb Rose, the 98 of Zachary Fitzwater, Wyatt Walker, Michael DeFeo, Jerry Rose, Travis Crampton, and Alex Bonsignor will all fight for the pole, for the front row of the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. And I would definitely have to say, if I had to put my money on two drivers that could go for the pole in the Great American Race, I would definitely have to put my money on Skylar Taylor and Wyatt Walker. Those two drivers have started off the session completely fast. Of course, for Wyatt Walker, he did slip back into sixth, but he has shown that he does have a very, very fast Bass Pro Shops Toyota Camry. So, as far as the part-time cars, we have three that are in the top 10. So it's going to come down to these three drivers that will try to lock themselves into the Daytona 500. Remember, the fastest two cars that are now in this final round will time their way in via their qualifying speed. So 2 out of these 3 cars will get a spot in this year's Daytona 500, and one of them will have to rely on the duels to try to race their way in to the Great American Race. But it is going to be a barn burner, if that, when it comes down to who is going to be on the front row for the Great American Race. So with that said, let's take a quick break and get the roster set up for the final round of Daytona 500 knockout pole qualifying.
If you want to watch a stream, you have to be ad-free because he gives you like 3 in an hour or minute. Please just do what he wants and he will give you the victory royale because he is very good at Fortnite. Not really, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he is really good at Fortnite. Yeah, he is good at Fortnite.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back here at the Daytona International Speedway. It is time to figure out and find out who will sit on the front row for the Daytona 500, and as well as who will be the fastest 2 part-time cars to lock themselves into the Great American Race via their qualifying time. 10 minutes on the clock. Travis Crampton, the first one to hit the racetrack, followed by the number 41 of Skylar Taylor, who has shown that he is the favorite for the front row here in the Daytona 500. Both times he was the fastest in his group for round 1, and he was just recently the fastest in round number 2. Let's see if he can complete the trifecta and end up on the front row for the Great American Race this Saturday, which will be streamed live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. Right now, currently, they're all running all by themselves. Of course, Crampton and also Skylar Taylor all riding by themselves as of right now. So it will take a little bit before we can see some 2-car drafts, 3 or even 4-car drafts. We've seen it before in all throughout tonight. But with 10 cars on the track, it's going to be just a little bit more difficult. But it could work for Skylar Taylor because he might be able to pick up the 5 of Claire Phillips, who is just now getting out on the racetrack. Maybe Phillips could get a whiff of the draft of Skylar Taylor. But again, it takes a full lap before these cars can get up to full song, so it might be a little bit too late here for Phillips to get a draft off of the 41 of Skylar Taylor. 5:25 for Skylar Taylor. Not as fast to open up the session. But for Travis Crampton, 47:475. He currently holds on to the fastest time as of right now. Everybody kind of just running all by themselves. We've yet to see a full, basically kind of like a multi-car draft per se. As Jerry Rose goes to the top, 47,364. Crampton back to the top, 46,846 as of right now. So he would be one of the 2 cars that would lock himself into the Daytona 500. Claire Phillips jumps to second with a 46,862. Zachary Fitzwater, number 47, right now top 5. Currently tied with Jerry Rose. But right now, it's only the top 2 that matter. Those would be the 2 drivers that would sit on the front row for the Daytona 500. And right now, the 2 cars that would lock themselves in via qualifying times would be the 61 of Travis Crampton and also the 60 of Michael DeFeo. Those 2 drivers are currently in via the qualifying speeds. Only 1 car has yet to take time. That is the 52 of Chase McClure, whom I believe, yes, is out on the racetrack right now. He's drafting with Wyatt Walker as we currently speak. So he will put down he might put down actually a really good lap time, as they're both drafting off of the 61 of Travis Crampton. Phillips right now in the number 5 is at the top of the 46,265. With this 3-car draft right here that we are looking at, that could very well change. And it will. Coming across the stripe this time by Phillips actually still remains at the top with a 46,265, but Crampton still second. Wyatt Walker and McClure get around the number 61 of Crampton. And Chase McClure would hold on to that second transfer spot. DeFeo gets kicked all the way back to 10th, closing in on 5 minutes to go here in Daytona 500 knockout qualifying for the opening race for the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series. Phillips best at her own time, 46,176. But with this draft right here, let's see what things look like. Wyatt Walker goes to the top, 1/1000th of a second ahead of McClure, a 45,927. Skylar Taylor third right now with a 46,112, just 0.2 back from the front 2. See where Claire Phillips is on the track right now, drafting with Skylar Taylor. It's a 2-car draft, but 3 cars in a draft is definitely looking to be more powerful than 2. As of right now, less than 5 minutes to go, coming up on 4 minutes remaining. The 2 fastest part-time cars as of right now, tailing what could be who could be the pole sitter. Not anymore. Travis Crampton goes to the top with a 45.682. This is where the fast times are being generated, right here amongst these 3 cars. And these 3 definitely are going to battle it out for the pole with how close together they are right now and with how organized they are. This is just absolutely insane of how in tune that these 3 cars are. As they come off of turn number 4, Wyatt Walker leading this draft. See what things look like across the stripe. McClure to the top with a 45.682, 1/1000th of a second ahead of Travis Crampton. We could see shades of what we saw back in 2020, where the part-time cars sat on the front row for the Daytona 500. It has happened before. It could very well happen again. History does repeat itself, ladies and gentlemen. I am telling you, history repeats itself, and we could see it here tonight with less than 3 minutes to go. They're catching up to Michael DeFeo, who's currently running all by his lonesome. And as far as Michael DeFeo goes, he will have to race his way into the Daytona 500 via the Axalta Duels tomorrow night. Wyatt Walker jumps up to second with a 45.591, but they are catching Michael DeFeo, so this could be good news for the number 60. But the bad news is, of course, this involves the other 2 part-time cars that he's contesting one of those 2 qualifying spots for to get into this race. As far as for Wyatt Walker, he's trying to go for the front row. So far, as of right now, he's got it with less than 2 minutes to go here in this session. These cars have now picked up Michael DeFeo. Let's see what the times are going to look like across the stripe. Walker to the top with a 45.506, 4/1000ths of a second ahead of Chase McClure. Michael DeFeo just jumped up to 6th with a 7th actually, with a 46.775. Little improvement for DeFeo, but if he wants to knock one of the 2 drivers out of the top 3, out of the top 2, out of the fastest 2 to at least get into the Daytona 500, he's definitely got to hope and pray that he can get a really good time here. As they come off turn number 4 this time, off the back bumper of the 61 of Travis Crampton. All eyes on DeFeo right now, as he goes to the top. 45.493 for Michael DeFeo. What looked like that he was going to be down and out, he manages to pull himself right back into the mix. Just 10/1000ths of a second, or 10/100ths of a second ahead of Travis Crampton, which would mean McClure would have to rely on the duels tomorrow night. They pick up Jerry Rose, who's all by his lonesome and is currently running 10th, and they're going to shuffle him out. Across the stripe they go once again. No times have changed. 15 seconds to go before there's an additional 45 seconds. But history is definitely looking like it's going to repeat itself right here amongst these 5 cars. 3 of them are, of course, the part-time cars that made it to this point. Coming off, going into turn 3 this time, coming around to turn 4. I'm completely brain farting and mixing up my words. Let's see what the times look like this time around. See if anything may change. A small change, but definitely not anything to shake up the running order. with 10 seconds to go. It's definitely looking like the things are going to be official right here. And they are. So your front row for the Daytona 500 is looking like this. It is Michael DeFeo in the 60 and Travis Crampton, car number 61. They will start on the front row for the Daytona 500. And on top of that, they lock themselves in via their qualifying speeds. As for Chase McClure, he will have to race his way in tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, which you'll see those live on Twitch. But that was definitely something right there. From Michael DeFeo, he was down and out, running in the 10th position. And just like that, when the three cars of Travis Crampton, Wyatt Walker, and Chase McClure all picked up Michael DeFeo, it was just, man, I did not even think that it was going to happen. But man, when another car gets picked up in the draft and taken all the way to the back, never count him out. Never count him out. But as far as Michael DeFeo goes, he wins the pole for the Daytona 500, and Travis Crampton will line up alongside two part-time cars on the front row, two drivers that will lock themselves into this Saturday's Great American Race. And as for Chase McClure and the rest of the other drivers attempting this race, they will have to race their way in tomorrow night's Axalta Duels here at the Daytona International Speedway. And that's going to do it here for Daytona 500 pole qualifying. But hey, as far as the duels go, you never quite know. I mean, for some of these drivers, they could. I mean, as far as the part-time cars, they still have a chance, but it's definitely not going to come easy for the Axalta Duels tomorrow night, which again, I'm going to say it one more time. You will see those tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on Twitch. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and sign off here from the Daytona International Speedway. Big congratulations to Michael DeFeo and Travis Crampton for not only securing their spots in this year's Daytona 500, but also winning the front row for the Great American Race. If you guys like this, be sure to hit the like button. And if you have not considered subscribing yet, recommend you do so to keep up with some fine content coming out in the near future. You will see the replay of the duels. If you don't feel like watching on Twitch because of the ads, hey, that's fine. If you don't feel like subscribing, paying some money, or even using your Amazon Prime, hey, not a problem at all. You'll see the full race replay on Friday, on Valentine's Day, in order to keep you up to date with everything that has been going on as far as the Axalta Duels have been concerned. So definitely keep an eye out for those. But if you are going to watch live on Twitch tomorrow night, we'll see you then. And as far as this qualifying session goes, one more time, congratulations to Michael DeFeo and Travis Crampton for securing their spots and the front row in this year's Daytona 500. Have a great night, y'all, and we'll see you tomorrow night